Hey guys, Tbull here. Today we're going to be breaking down two of my top picks, two of my top premium picks for battleships. People are always asking, what should I get? Looking for a new premium. Maybe it's going to be your first premium ship in the game. Or you're just looking to expand your battleship punching power. The Hyuga and the Warspite, among the best. Both outstanding. Warspite, I got two versions of it. I got the regular version, which I bought. It's one of the first premiums that ever came out, so it was prior to me being in the community contributor program. Bought that ship a long time ago, played it a lot, and then I got the Warspite B at some point in time for free. So combine those two ships together, they're probably my most played ship in the game. All right, so I like the Warspite, no doubt. Hyuga, a more recent addition to the lineup. Now, Hyuga is kind of it's an offshoot of the Tier 5 Japanese tech tree battleship Fuso. Okay, similar idea, but some key differences. All right, so I'm going to break down the differences between the Hyuga and the Warspite. I'm going to give you my idea as to which I would recommend, and I'm hoping to get some feedback in the comments because I always like to hear what you guys have to say. If I had to predict, people that have the Hyuga and the Warspite, if you said, okay, you got to pick one or the other, I would say the Hyuga might come out on top. That's just my guess. That's why I'm kind of interested to see what you guys have to say in the comments. But as per usual, I'll give you my thoughts on it. And if you disagree with me, let me know why I got it wrong. All right, so Hyuga. What's the deal here? I'm not going to go over every single number, but I'll kind of give you comparisons between the two ships. Dramatically more HP. Okay, we're talking about 7,000 more HP on the Hyuga than the Warspite. Guns, we got 12, similar to the Fuso. 12 guns. Now, they're 356 calibers. Warspite's at 381, so a little bit higher caliber in terms of the punchy power with the Warspite, but Hyuga, quite dangerous. Now, the balancing factor on the Fuso has always been, all right, you got these 12 guns, but the shots get a little crazy sometimes, all right? You pull the trigger, you never know exactly what's going to happen. Well, the Hyuga, not quite the case, all right? It's much more accurate than the Fuso, much more reliable. I'll compare it to the Warspite here in a moment. But overall, the performance of the Hyuga compared to the Fuso dramatically improved in terms of accuracy. Now, the key difference between this and the Fuso is the reload boosters, right? You get a juicy opportunity to hit a broadside target, either battleship, cruiser, whatever it is, or you got a nice point-blank destroyers trying to rush you. Well, you get that reload booster going, all of a sudden we get 24 guns firing in the span of, oh, I don't know, 10, 15 seconds. That's a lot of stopping power. All right, that's a very dangerous proposition to anyone who's going to be making mistakes against the Hyuga. So the reload booster, very powerful, and that's the main draw of the Hyuga, in my opinion. Range, better on the Hyuga. Now, my builds are a little bit different in terms of philosophy. I always set up my Japanese battleships a little bit more longer range. British, I don't mind getting in a little bit closer. But on my build, it's over 2 kilometers difference, and I suspect no matter how you set it up, the Hyuga is always going to have the range advantage. Reload better, 2 seconds on the Hyuga. Traverse, much better, 10 seconds on this build. Damage, there's about 1,000 more damage per max AP hit on the Warspite. So a little bit lower damage, that's kind of reflected by the lower caliber. But again, we got a lot of guns firing here, so max salvo. And in fact, the damage per minute numbers, if you run them, better on the Hyuga, certainly. All right, so the Hyuga is capable of pumping out the damage. Now, I'm not going to, I like to use the summary number. Every time I use that, you guys say, well, you got to do a deeper dive. I get that. But the AA rating on the Hyuga, 47 compared to 54 on the Warspite. So Warspite, we're going to go ahead and give the nod to an AA, which is always good because carriers are a pain in the rear. Nobody likes to get bombed, and of course the carriers like to bomb battleships, so if you can bring a little bit more stopping power to that fight, that's never going to be a bad thing. All right, so we're going to give the AA edge to the Warspite. Speed and rudder shift better on Hyuga, and we'll talk about the turn on the Warspite, but that's better on the Warspite. Concealment, roughly the same. All right, I think it's slightly better on the Warspite or roughly equal. Now the armor edge, if you look at the armor schemes, they're pretty comparable in terms of the values that you're seeing, but there's deeper colors on the Hyuga overall. All right, so the Warspite's got a few more exposed surfaces that are a little bit easier to punch through. And the Hyuga, You can still find the weak spots, of course, but overall, a little bit more durable. So I'm going through these stats here, and on paper, I'd say the Hyuga seems to have a pretty definitive edge. Okay, and I think that's why most players, aside from their experience in the ships, I think they're going to be looking at the stats and saying, okay, Hyuga looks to be the better ship. And I can't necessarily outright disagree with them, all right? But I'll be honest with you, I prefer the Warspite, and I'm going to go ahead and tell you why. All right, now at Warspite, we only have 8 guns. Yes, they're the 381s compared to the 356s, but that's 4 less guns. And like we said, we got longer reload, we got shorter range, we got longer traverse. But the traverse doesn't really factor in that much. And that goes back to the turn 550 in the turn radius compared to 750 on the Hyuga, which isn't bad, certainly, but 550, outstanding. And in fact, I can't think of any battleship off the top of my head that even comes close to the Warspite's turning ability. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. But it's one of the more nimble ships in the game. And the ability to get these turns going, really tight turn, the traverse becomes less and less of an issue. All right, so it's very easy to open up the full salvo and then close it down again. Angle the ship after you fire your guns, and it can be very frustrating to fight a well-played Warspite. If they're really actively turning in between shots, you're going to probably have some problems with it. Now, aside from the turn, which again is outstanding and makes it a lot of fun to play, it's not a clunky feeling battleship. It's a very nimble feeling battleship. But the highlight of the Warspite is the accuracy. All right, no, I don't run the stats. I don't do a deep dive on the stats like a lot of the guys do. But in my opinion, the Warspite's probably the most accurate battleship in the game. There might be something like Champagne at super long ranges. I think it gets pretty accurate, but it is the Champagne, so that's the knock on that ship. Not to mention it's a higher tier battleship. But the Warspite, pound for pound, the accuracy is outstanding. Okay, so if you got Andrew Cunningham, who's already got the grouping as his base trait, well, you slap that on the Warspite, and all of a sudden we're taking a very accurate battleship and we're shooting lasers at that point in time. All right, so the Warspite, in my opinion, is the battleship player's battleship, right? It's the ship that if you really, you know how to aim, you figured out the aim points on the ships. If it's angled at you, you're going to be aiming up a little bit. If it's broadside, we're going to be drilling them in the water. The Warspite's got the accuracy to put those shots on target where you intend them to be. All right, so you combine the maneuverability, the ability to get those guns on target very quickly. You can say you're fighting someone, then you see an opportunity 90 degrees to the right or left. You can turn that ship very quickly, get those guns on target, blast away, and you can rack up the dev strikes and rack up the devastating damage. And the Warspite brings that to bear. Now, the Warspite, the main drawback, in my opinion, of it is at tier 5 and especially versus tier 6, battleships in particular. A lot of those times the calibers start to get up a little bit, and like I said earlier, the armor rating a little bit lower, so those ships potentially can start to slam those shots through your armor, even if you're trying to protect yourself. All right, so if you're going against a battleship opponent who knows what they're doing, and they just happen to have more firepower than you in terms of caliber, well, you might be at a little bit of a disadvantage there. You're going to be relying on your accurate guns to take them out quickly before they can take you out. So, the other stat I should point out, did I mention that the AP damage on the Warspite a little bit higher? Raw damage. All right, so that's my breakdown on the ships. Frankly, I like them both. I'm not going to lie to you. They're both outstanding. I think, again, if you evaluate the competition that they're facing at in a given tier, 2 of the best battleships in the game, certainly, if not number 1 and number 2. But in my opinion, the Warspite's probably the more fun to play. I think it's outstanding. I just love a good, accurate battleship, and the Warspite doesn't get any better than that. So that's my breakdown. Again, you can't go wrong with either. So if you got money for one or the other, kind of go with what I've said here. See which one appeals more towards your sensibilities, your play style. But my opinion, at the end of the day, my money goes to the Warspite. So I'm interested in hearing from you guys. What do you think? Did I get it right? Did I get it wrong? If you got them both, Especially give us your breakdown, or if you got one or the other, give us your opinions. This video is mainly for the people that are looking to get either the first premium or they're trying to get a nice premium battleship. It's kind of a buyer's guide. But again, both of them great ships. So that's going to do it for that one, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy it. If you did, please hit the thumbs up. New to the channel, consider subscribing. Lots of World of Warships coming all the time. Questions, comments, leave below. Love to hear from you guys, and we'll see y'all later. All right, peace.